Hello, this is Glenn MacArthur with Absolute Truth, the Absolute Truth blog. Today we will discuss UFOs and government cover-ups. First, a preface. The government, as a contractor, I've worked with the government, and I've worked with commercial, and I've worked with independents, basically as a engineering contractor. And I can tell you with almost absolute certainty that the government will tell the truth when it's necessary, but it will bend the truth, if not cover up the truth, if they feel that there's a reason. I mean, a reason. And to the general public, that reason could come off as being, oh, they're doing it again. They're covering up, and we don't need that. But there is reasons, and now I'm going to try to explain those reasons of MJ12 and the government with their covering up of the Roswell incident, and also other things such as Operation Paperclip and the birth of the UFOs. First, we'll talk about the history. The history is this: in 1936, when Hitler was a chancellor and he wanted to become when he wanted to become um, when he wanted to become the president and the dictator, de Fuhrer, he basically there was a interaction very similar to what happened in Roswell. This was the first interaction of mankind with ET. To say the craft came down and crashed in Lower Bavaria. Hitler assigned Himmler to assign somebody to go down and make a report and get back to him on what was going on down there. Himmler put one man in charge of the whole mess, and his name was Hans Kammler. He went on to become an SS general and head of the Special Projects Division. He was even at one time the boss um, over he was the boss of Dr. Werner von Braun and several other the missile people that we now know came out of Peenemünde. He went down there and he retrieved the engine and what was left of the flying saucer, and several entities that were in the flying saucer that were dead. Obviously, there must have been some kind of communication after that, because a lot of technology was given to the Nazis, and they passed that technology on to us under Operation Paperclip. They say that Hans Kammler disappeared, or that the engine was a time machine or whatever, which is all speculation at the time. But the fact of the matter is, the truth is that Operation Paperclip integrated Dr. Hans Kammler and the Glocke, or the bell, into the military structure. Of course, they couldn't exactly park it or bring it over to Wright-Patterson, so they had to put it somewhere. My guesstimate would have been Plum Island. Ideal, because there was another Nazi who was heading up a viral lab there after the war. We know this for a fact. We also know for a fact that the lady who transported the Glocke from Lower Bavaria into Norway, where it was put on a ship in Trondheim, mineral ore carrier, to the United States, was her name was in a devotee of Hannah Reich. Her name was Luftwaffe General Reka, and she was charged with flying this new prototype called the Truck, a Ju-390 six-engine aircraft, almost the size of our flying boat, the one that Howard Hughes was building. She flew it, and it's gathered that it was probably shown that it wasn't brought to the States, that it never landed in the States. The only logical place it could have landed would have been Hudson's Bay. It's long enough, big enough, and deep enough to hide a plane like that if something should happen. It was probably after they landed, they probably downloaded all the stuff and took it straight across the border, and they probably dynamited and dropped the 390 into the icy depths of Hudson's Bay. But no one knows. No one knows where the hell it's at. But it was one. It was the only one that was flyable and was usable. We do know she came across with Hannah Reich and others to this country and became part of Operation Paperclip. We do know that Dr. Hans Kammler brought his Bell to the into the country. We do know that the Sage facility at Montauk was built. We do know that it was tested. The engine was tested in a most peculiar way, and that he finally got it to work. And we do know that in 1967, this general met with his boss at Cape Canaveral before it became the Kennedy Space Center. We do know that that his existence is covered up and probably won't be made available. And we do know he was building other engines for other craft. There's a good possibility that what that British guy saw in that show, I mean, that what he saw when he hacked into the Pentagon or the NASA database was that he found out that there was a secret space fleet. And we do know that the only one who could have built the engine would have probably been Hans Kammler. We do know this. These are points that we can connect because it's the absolute truth. Now, what we don't know is this. Why Roswell? Why? What was going on? What was it all about? There was two reasons for the cover-up, because I'm going to state to you the baseline first. The baseline is this. 100 years, almost 100 years before, about 80 years before Roswell, there was another like situation. 1881 in Aurora, Texas, a mysterious craft crashed into a tower, came down, and there was an ET aboard. They took the ET, which was dead, and they performed an autopsy, and then they buried him and the materials in a shallow grave. And they took some of the materials and shoved it down an empty well. Okay, this we know. The government came in, did their autopsy, left, and all we know of it was in the obituaries of the Dallas Gazette, or Fort Worth Gazette, and the Aurora paper. The fact of the matter is that there was no cover-up, simply because there was no threat. Obviously, in 1881, the only threat that was around was Pancho Villa, and he ain't flying no UFOs. Okay, so there you go. So, so my guesstimate is that what happened next, you go forward almost 100 years to Roswell. Here you have the government saying that they're UFO. They misidentified it because the guy had just arrived, taken the post. Marcel took the post, and basically he didn't know UFO from a fly swatter, at Texas fly swatter. Anyway, which are very big. So basically, he didn't understand that White Sands had sent up a Project Mogul, one of these, whatever, basically a high altitude package to check out the upper atmosphere, the winds, the whole bit, or maybe even to look for a radiation coming from a nuclear bomb test from China or wherever, maybe one of our tests, whatever. Anyway, it got wrapped up in a thunderous bumper, ended up over Max Braswell's ranch. Hence, something came flying in, just like in that Project Blue Book, the first one, smacked into it and crashed. But it didn't crash there. Yeah, there was two crashes, not one. So basically, 20 miles north and a little east is Aurora, New Mexico. Same weird situation, except the same weird name, right? It crashed into a butte. Cop car saw it, called the military. Military came out, found the cracked open saucer, saw the 4 dead bodies, and okay, now you've got the locals seeing this. They had to follow state law. They couldn't bag them up take them out to the and fly them out. Yeah, it had to go through an autopsy. So they helped bring the bodies down to Roswell, where the military did an autopsy, where MJ-12 put a clamp on it, didn't tell anybody about the crash site up north, and basically did the autopsies, got the funeral director to bring out 4 miniature caskets, got them on board a plane, and flew them out to Wright Pat, where they may be or may not be. Anyway, what basically happened was that why did they put a clamp on it? Why did they cover it up? Simple. They didn't want the Soviets to get any information about what was there. Plus, the Soviets guaranteed there were spies there because this was the first nuclear bomb area. I mean, a nuclear bomb storage and flyout area for the nuclear squadron. Yeah. So they had to put a clamp on it. MJ-12 was tasked to move it out without a lot of garbage. So basically, you got people that are watching us. There are people that are watching them. There are people that are watching them. They had to do that. Another reason, I mean, you take a look at the Manhattan Project. They took, they got the nuclear bomb secrets. They got the British. They got the materials off the floor using crepe soles so they could build better jet engines. They even went to Canada to buy models of the little Arrow, the first Mach 2 supersonic fighter at the time. Hello, does any of this register with you? Yeah, it's the Red Scare. Boom. That's the reason why. That's the reason why they didn't want to push this. Okay, that's the reason for the cover-up. Now, the second reason for the cover-up was the fact that here you have ETs. That means interaction. That means they're going to come wanting their bodies back. They're going to want their bodies back. So my feeling is that there was an interaction, and they got their bodies back, and we got some secrets, and we became friendly with the ETs. Okay, then they decided they were going to build Area 51, and voila, that happened. Now, we will talk in the next video of number 2 about Operation Paperclip and the birth of the UFO phenomenon. So this is Glenn MacArthur for Absolute Truth, signing off.